Oh, never live. God, there was a big lag there on
There
going
was,
live.
yeah.
Your first, can I suggest a first product to stock in the new WIT?
Go on then.
Spade.
I saw you talk about it last week. I haven't actually bought because it's not available in the UK, is it?
But you could be the first. You could be the first Euro distributor. All you have to do is order like a shipping container, two shipping containers. One gets lost on the way, winds up at my house, and the other one continues on to WIT, and then you sell it.
Do we get an annual sponsorship of the pod with that?
2 months.
2 months.
It's a,
Prices change these days.
it is actually really nice though. I just yeah, it's nice. It doesn't sponsor the show or anything, but I like Jake, and it's
I'd love to try it, but
I'd offer you some, but it's not going to really work over this medium. What's it been like the last week with your return to I don't know what you'd call it, like the zeitgeist?
Yeah, I don't know what you call it, but it's been interesting actually, because the main reason being that I'm surprised so many people are interested, for one, and two, I guess it's been quite nice to see the reaction because we were unsure about what it would be. Hopefully, that's a reflection on me and Sam, but it may be that people just want the stash back, but who knows? But it's been a surprisingly good reaction, and it's obviously a bit of an ego boost, a bit of a dopamine hit, but it's built some confidence in us doing what we've done and going back in, I think.
Well, just for anyone who doesn't know who you are, so WIT Fitness or whatever it takes was an online store and a physical location as well, mainly online, I guess, and a physical location and a gym in London. And then, so you and Sam started it, and you've been on before, and you kind of talked about how it started and stuff. But basically, you saw an opportunity, you started it, and then the last time you were on, now I know nothing about business. I just like preface all of my questions for the next hour on that fact that I know nothing about business. But the last time you were on, you were like the head honcho at WIT. Sam had left, and he was working with Noble at the time. And then you were in charge. And then you were kind of taking a step back, and Matt Brewster was coming in, and he was going to be the CEO, and you were going to be like around, still owning it, but not like actively day-to-day involved, basically. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think so. Me and Sam started it when we raised some money in 2020 and off a private equity group. And Sam,
Oh God, don't mention private equity around CrossFit.
I know I listened to last week's yesterday, but that's why it's so it resonated with me when people do talk about it. But I think he'd be happy with me saying he didn't really get on with working with them, and he got an offer he couldn't refuse from Noble. I was CEO already at the time, so I continued to be CEO. And then, for one reason or another, one, I wanted to bring a CEO in to enable us to one day sell the company, because otherwise I would never get out. And two, I was suffering a bit with the pressure I was under from everything, really, from maybe private equity, and without Sam as a business partner, it was a big change to be like you said, the head honcho with not someone to bounce ideas off. Our private equity group were quite distant, so it wasn't like they were bouncing ideas off me every day. Hence why we went and hired another CEO at that time. I think that was probably just after we met in Miami about 2.5 years ago.
So when private equity come and So like you call it that you got investment. Did they just buy part of the company basically?
Yeah. So we wanted to raise some capital to accelerate the growth of the company, and we didn't have that capital, so we went to external investors.
Okay, and then in exchange for that, they get part of the percentage of the company.
Yeah, they took a minority percentage of the company at that point, and obviously their aim, as you guys were talking about last week, is to flip that in a period of time and get between a 3x, well, north of a 3x return, so north of 3 times what they put in. But much north of that in an ideal world, obviously doesn't always work out that way.
And then have they got boots on the ground or no? Is it just you reporting back?
So they never had boots on the ground. So we had a board of directors, which they had representatives on, but as a CEO, I'd report into the board as a collective. So multiple people on the board, including me and Sam and a couple of original investors. But they never had boots on the ground in the company. Matt was much closer to them than I was, so you could call it a boot on the ground there, but no one formally.
And did they put him in, or was he like, how did he come about?
They wanted to put a CEO in, or we agreed that it was a time to put another CEO in. I interviewed a few people. They interviewed a few people, and Matt was someone that we actually both knew from different past lives or different experiences, who we agreed was a good fit at the time.
Okay. And then, because I remember like when we talked, you kind of hinted at like, oh, there could be a second WIT location, and there could be, we could be doing all these different things. And I remember at one point, prior to that, I think, am I right in saying that if you went on to maybe like 2019, 2020, if you went on to the CrossFit.com and the store, it brought you to WIT?
Yeah.
So that was like, there's varying points here where things are like, holy shit, we're on a serious upward trajectory. Then stuff kind of stutters a bit. Then it goes back on an upward trajectory again. And then it all just crashes and burns like with whatever, 6-8 months ago.
I like that summary. Yeah, that's a summary of a lot of startups in general. But yeah, I think
are you just like laying track in front of yourself then? Is that what is that what most companies are doing basically? Because I see companies online and I'm like, wow, they're sponsoring all these athletes and they're doing all this stuff. Like they must have so much money. But is it basically like a false economy? Like, is it like, okay, if we just keep spending, at some point the money's going to come back?
So I'd say no. So obviously from day one, we had a 5-year business plan. Like we wrote an extensive business plan year one. A lot of thought went into that. That business plan does pivot over the years, and that can be circumstantial, or because something suddenly works, or because a CrossFit comes along and you have an opportunity to partner with a global brand. And every business goes through some turbulence. We unfortunately had a period of a double whammy of COVID and Brexit, which was incredibly turbulent time for the business. So it was probably a bit more like that than usual.
Yeah.
But yeah, your summary is a good one. I'd say the first 4 years was just like that, and sometimes it is like that with startups. And then you think, to accelerate even more, we need money. We need more money, even though we were already going like that.
Yeah.
But with that money comes some challenges, and then occasionally something's going to be thrown in which is going to derail you. Sometimes you can deal with that well, sometimes you can deal with them badly, and we potentially dealt with some of those badly over the years, including when I was there.
Yeah. Is it that shipping thing happened as well? That was a bit of a shitstorm for like whatever. Remember was it the Suez Canal? There was some ship that got stuck or something. Was that like that was
I wasn't at the business then, but that was also a problem. Yeah, that's a problem for all businesses. Every clothing business in the world had no clothes for a while.
So when Matt's there, how engaged or how like hands-on were you? Were you basically like, was he what you were and you were a member of the board basically? He was kind of going back to you saying, hey, this happened, that happened. You're like, all right, cool, keep going.
I'd say so. First of all, I was pretty hands-on. I just moved to chief brand officer, which is like a glamorous word for being custodian of the brand, gateway for the brand. So deciding what we put out and don't put out.
Okay.
But I'd say over time, I became probably a bit of a mascot. Yeah, with less input, because some of my views probably were in a disagreement with some of the boards.
Did you feel like you were being pushed out then?
I don't actually, because I tried to leave quite a lot, and I was always incentivized to stay. But I don't think, I think I was a good CEO who made a few mistakes like everyone, but also had some bad circumstances. And we were growing rapidly, and we only hired another CEO to scale faster. But I think a difference in opinion with your investors or board doesn't go down particularly well. So, but we always maintained a professional relationship, and people who are financing the business have done so before you. I've got a lot of respect for them, and as anyone would. And it doesn't. Well, a different opinion doesn't mean the wrong opinion. So it just potentially just didn't work out. It was probably a clash of ideals.
Say when it was at its peak, like what was the value of the company when it was like at the tip of this like 4-year period? What was the value?
I think there was investment around 25 million or just below.
And then what is it? I know that fuck, what are they called? Fraser Group bought it. So that's like Mike Ashley basically, isn't it?
Yeah, his son-in-law Michael Murray is now the CEO, so Mike Ashley's not involved, and Michael Murray very much is in charge these days. But yeah, Mike's
and it was so they bought it, but like when they bought it, it was, from what I gather, it was like circling the drain. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah, that's accurate.
This is my official business speak. And what did they buy it for?
Well, that hasn't been disclosed, but let's say a very a single-digit percentage of what I just described.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like fully in the tank.
Yeah. So a lot of people lost a lot of money, including mainly the private equity group. But also private shareholders, and obviously that particularly hurts because a lot of them were a lot of our original shareholders, as any startup, friends and family, right? They're the main ones.
I feel bad for the shareholders, but like fuck private equity, they'll be okay. So when they bought it, then this is the bit that I'm really hung up on, like that I really don't understand. So Fraser Group buy it, and then like a month later sell it. What purpose did they have in buying it?
So what's happened there is, so the Fraser Group. When a company, this is new to me by the way, from 6 months ago, but now I'm pretty well versed in it. The company goes into administration. It goes on kind of a marketplace, like behind. We don't see it, but it goes on a marketplace and it starts being touted around the market. So a broker will ring up all the usual parties and say, "Do you want to purchase this brand, etc." So we were actually bidding to get it out of its administration, along with 6 or 7 other people, including the Frasers Group, and it came down to best and final bid between, from what I understand, us and the Frasers Group. But during that process, we already knew Michael Murray, and he contacted us separately and said, "Do you guys want to? Are you potentially interested in working on this together?" And whilst we couldn't figure anything out at the time, so they went ahead and acquired the business. We kept talking over the last 6 months, and we got a deal done to acquire the majority back off them and work in partnership with them to kind of rebirth the brand.
So who owns it then?
So we own the majority stake in the business, and they own a minority percentage.
What the fuck did they buy it for then? Sure, they could have just said like, "Here, do you want to work together?" No, all right, fuck it, you can have it then. Like, why did they buy it and then sell the majority?
That's an interesting point, because I think 2 reasons. So on the one hand, they could buy it and eliminate it in a way, because in theory it's a competitor, but it was a competitor of Sports Direct, a retailer, and then no one else gets their hands on it. They get their hands on all the old stock that still exists. They sell the stock, they get their money back. And on the other hand, it's a free hit, because if they can find someone to run it, obviously in this scenario would be us, they can grow the business back to 25, 30 million, then they're kind of quids in. They can either buy the business back, and it's a proper business, or the business can be sold and they can make a shed load of money on what they've put in. And they've got the kind of network to do it, whether it's property or logistics, things like that, to support scale. So that's, I think, the goal for them.
So when you say minority, like, is it like it's not a three-way partnership then? So it's like you and Sam are one entity and you own over 50% of the company. So you have the deciding vote if something is happening, basically.
Exactly. We dominate the board, and we've got strategic lead on everything.
Man, your internet is absolute dog shit. You look like you're made out of Legos. Yeah, you're gone real pixelated. Maybe it's just I don't know. Mine seems okay. Maybe someone in the comments might say, but I don't know. We'll keep going. It was great at the start and just the last like 5 minutes. But I can still hear you, so that's fine.
All right, just let me know when I clear up. Yeah, that's not good. Sorry. Middle of London too.
Maybe you can get WIT to buy a new router for your house or something. So they bought it. So do you guys, is the physical location still there? Like, is the gym going to be reopened and stuff?
So the physical location is not there.
Okay.
The gym, that's the question I get asked most. Is the gym going to be reopened? I'd say one of our mistakes at WIT, and I say ours in mine and Sam's rather than anyone else, was probably the business model, as you described at the beginning, was so fucking complicated that we had too much stuff going on. There's a lot of people that watch this program that are affiliate owners. It's fucking hard to run a gym. We had this gym to run in central London, and a store, and we're also an online retailer. We're also a clothing brand. Well, most people have one of those businesses. So whether we bring the gym back in that format, there's a question mark on that. However, we will do something physical to bring the fitness community together again.
Okay. And then there was something else I was going to ask you about WIT. Oh yeah. Who owns the physical location now? Does that like, did Sports Direct Crowd buy the company and then sell the location, or was it sold prior to that?
No, so that's actually this is a total coincidence. So that location in London, it's in a big shopping centre, and after COVID, the lower ground floor, there was no one in it. There's no footfall on Mondays and Fridays. No one was shopping in that centre, and everything closed. So the landlord decided to kick the remaining tenants out as part. They had a clause in the lease, and they're converting it into a big adult gaming centre, because they couldn't rent out any of the units to retailers. No one wanted to do anything. So that was purely coincidental. That was going to happen anyway.
Adult gaming. Is that like porn? What's that? Adult gaming.
You know what? I don't know if I think I've used the wrong word there. Maybe it's adult social. I can't remember. It's some sort of thing where adults go to pretend to be kids.
Okay. Probably would have been better as a gym. And then all the stock and stuff. So are you starting from scratch? Is it just like nothing and you have to start building everything back up again, or how is that going to work?
We're literally starting from scratch.
So zero inventory, like no employees, like nothing.
No employees, zero inventory. Like we've got nothing. The only thing we've got is the brand. We've bought the IP to the brand basically, and the goodwill of the customer and the reputation and the awareness. That's it.
Right.
So it's not.
What the fuck are you gonna do? Like, how are you gonna get what are you gonna do? Just start with like one t-shirt?
We do question it some days. But don't worry, we've got a plan. There will be product. I actually did take a risk on some product prior to signing the deal. So there's product in the pipeline already.
Okay. Own branded stuff or like other companies?
Own branded.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you think I'm looking at like successful brands over the last while, and like say the RAD model of that like kind of scarcity. I don't know how intentional, I don't know how much they intended to be as scarce as they ended up being. They kind of like ballooned a bit quicker than they thought they would maybe. But that kind of, oh shit, if I don't buy it now, it'll be gone. Like, is that kind of what you're going to start aiming for? Or are you going to aim for like, no, like come whenever you want, we'll have endless amount of stock. You can peruse at your leisure and purchase whatever you want.
I think we'll be a mix of the two, but I think it's important for us to make sure that we always have product in for the customer.
Okay.
We think there's a big, well, you know, with the other company I work for as well as in a similar space, but I think, and we think there's a big opportunity at the moment, not just in CrossFit, but in the wider fitness space, because of the disappearance of Noble, because of the lack of relevance of Reebok, because of the, you know, distribution struggles of GoRuck, because of the, you know, WIT's not around. Suddenly the consumer's thinking, you know, what can I buy? The CrossFit consumer's like, what do I wear? And then the, you know, the hybrid fitness consumer, you know, hasn't got any of these new cool brands to go for. The likes of RAD, obviously amazing, but at the moment they're a footwear brand that sell very cool t-shirts, limited edition. We will do some limited edition stuff, but we want to be always in training performance brand, bringing good product to the customer all the time.
Sean says, now that Sousa's done, you can have some viewers. Yeah, there was actually like 1 or 2 people watching. But yeah, Sousa just spent the last hour and a bit talking about private equity. So if people who just joined want to go back 20 minutes, you'll hear Dan talking about private equity. So you mentioned like mistakes that you made and stuff, and mistakes that like the company that you and your partner made at the start. And then that, I'm guessing the way you said it, mistakes that were made after that, like by the board and, you know, like the whole company across its existence, I guess, to lead it to where like the, you know, bottom of the sink basically. How do you avoid making those same mistakes? Because obviously, like one of the things with WIT, or one of the things that I noticed about WIT, was it had this reputation as being like desirable or whatever, like, or it was like not like boutique, but it was kind of, you know, like it had that like, oh, we're a big community and we're, you know, like you can be involved and, you know, you can come and train in our gym, or you can, you know, get involved in social media, or we'll do an activation at the games, or we'll do a activation at Wadapalooza or whatever. All that shit costs money, like a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
So how do you become, like, how do you regain, you said you have the trust of the customer, but how do you regain the attention of the customer, and how do you regain the attention of like the sport and people around the sport and stuff? And you mentioned other sports too. How do you do that without just fucking a load of money at it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're in a good position in that we've got we've spent all that money and we've done all that stuff that you mentioned already, and a lot of people know who we are. We've got a pretty large database, a pretty large social following. There's awareness out there, and I actually think, well, I know our strategy will be very much grassroots based. You know, low spend. It won't be like there won't be events, there won't be athletes at first. We just want to bring good product to the fitness community, and we want to work with people and gyms who are changing people's lives. Like we were always authentic, because our mission was always change as many lives as possible through training. It's the same now. So we're going to stick with that authenticity. And you know, the work that we've done in the past, yes, we've spent that money. You know, some of it was a mistake, some of it definitely wasn't. And we're going to just approach it a little bit differently this time.
All that shit costs money. Business by Pedro. Yeah, Two Brain Business is fucked when I get my book finished.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, we've all been to Wadapalooza, right? It costs money.
I mean, no, but like the amount, like I've heard rumblings of how much it costs to have like a stall at the games, or how much, like it's fucking nuts how much money it costs.
It doesn't. I've had a number of run-ins with them over the years. Like it doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't make commercial sense to virtually anyone.
You know, when you was it 2019 you went? You had the big on the grass with the gym behind it.
Yeah, 2019 and 2021, the post-COVID year, we had to stand. So I know how much it costs, and I know how unrealistic it is for partners sometimes.
Did you make money back? Like, did you earn money that year? No, 2019.
So we didn't make. I think we did actually. 2019 we made money. 2021 we didn't because we had the bigger partnership agreement, so it was put against that. So these are they're double-edged sword, these events, because the games, Wodapalooza, if you treat it as a marketing spend and it fits in your P&L correctly, and you're not spunking money elsewhere on marketing as well, it can work. I'm seeing that with Northern Spirit at the moment. But if you're doing 20 of those events a year, I mean, it just becomes pointless. And there's only so many times you can speak to the same people, right?
You mentioned Northern Spirit there. So is that the other company that you mentioned? You said, another similar company in the space. Are you working with them?
Yeah. I'm for the last 5 months, I've been interim MD at Northern Spirit. So I'm trying to help them. Well, my initial remit is to help them execute the partnership with CrossFit around the semi-finals and the product for the athletes. And I'm going to help them again for the next few months, the rest of this year, and maybe even going forward to build out the business in the space as well. There's a big opportunity for them.
How do you do the two things at once, though?
Well, at the moment,
are they not a competitor? Like,
no. So I think they're not, because. So firstly, how do I do both?
They're not because I want to do the two jobs. So they're different.
Believe me, I don't. Like you said earlier, like starting again. Anyway, so they. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, they're in a similar space, but Northern Spirit. The beauty of Northern Spirit is that they're absolutely and only focused on CrossFit affiliates. Working with CrossFit affiliates, getting into CrossFit affiliates, working with CrossFit owners, doing bespoke apparel for affiliates, doing the CrossFit apparel, and they're focused very much on Europe, France, and Europe, and the USA. WIT as a business is going to be there's going to be a wider scope for that business now. It'll be CrossFit and a wider fitness consumer. The product will be not solely focused on the CrossFit consumer. So there is kind of a divergence. In the future, will there be some competitiveness? Maybe that'll be a challenge. And then with regards to time, like you said a minute ago, we haven't got any product. We haven't got any product. So product takes a while. We're talking 6 to 12 months. Whereas Northern Spirit, as you can probably saw all over social media, have got a lot of product at the moment. So there's a lot going on there.
Because they used to be, is it like BN or something? They used to have a different name, Northern Spirit, did they? Like BN Sports or something like that?
No, Northern Spirit was that Swedish brand originally. They've been around for ages. 2014, they were acquired by. They've got a parent company, as you know, B Sport, who own Hustle Up as well.
That's it. And that's Hustle Up app or whatever. Yeah. And was the deal that they had just semi-finals?
Yeah, so there is it's confusing, right? Even so, you're asking me this, so it is confusing. They're the headline partner for the CrossFit semi-finals and Adaptive Teen and Masters finals. So there's one obviously elephant missing from that group.
Yeah. I imagine sitting in that meeting and it's like, we can give you this, this, and this, and it's like, what about the? No, you can't. You can't have that. Just slide that envelope back across the table. We didn't mean to give you that one. No.
Yeah, it did blow my mind a bit when I first saw it. I was like, fair play to CrossFit. They really carved this out well. But I think it works because Northern Spirit's a European brand, Go Rucker an American brand, and they really are. Go Ruck really is an American brand. Northern Spirit really is a European brand. So from a CrossFit perspective, with regards to the clothing, they can get coverage globally better than potentially a brand that's trying to do both.
Yeah, and I guess if Go Ruck were like, we just want the big show. I mean, like, what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to not have apparel for the others, I guess, or you're not going to not like try and get a partner company for the other, like for the offshoots or for semi-finals. If Go Ruck are like, not really that fussed about that, to be honest. We'll just we want Texas and nothing else.
Like you said, it costs money, right? Shit costs money.
Yeah.
So you get the apparel for the games costs money. The apparel for the semi-finals, believe me, costs money. So yeah, there's no way someone could have done all of that. I mean, what Northern Spirit did for the semi-finals was incredible. There were no strings attached, incredible. Like getting that gear on volunteers, everyone from volunteers through to athletes, through to community athletes. It was impressive.
How did that work? So the athletes who qualified for semi-finals were given kit but told you don't have to wear it, but they were still given it anyway. So like, say the likes of like Yana Koski gets a full rig out with like Koski or whatever written on it, and then just like he's like, well, this clashes with my apparel deal that I've signed, so that's going in the bin. So it's like there's a huge amount of like, cool, let's spend loads of money on this, and it's like, right, where's the return coming here of like half the field aren't wearing it?
Yeah, it's difficult because you can pick and choose. So I think our approach is basically to service the community more than the elite athlete at first. And like we thought it was a nice touch to get every volunteer, every judge, every community athlete at the events that had community events in the product and getting free product. And it was a lot of free product, like 3 or 4 days of free product. And we knew that some of the elites, definitely in Europe and America, are not going to wear it in that top heat. But then a surprising amount did. So I think that was a bonus if they wore it. Yeah, the elite.
So when they partner with CrossFit for semi-finals, they give CrossFit money to be the official apparel of semi-finals again, whatever, and then they spend money on the apparel and getting the apparel to all the athletes, all the volunteers, all the people to the community events, and then you just sit back and pray that there's goodwill earned there and that those people come back or other people buy. Is that how it works? Is that the model? Like,
that's the model. Basically, what you said is correct. They pay a fee, an annual fee to CrossFit, like all the other partners. They pay, there's a royalty, obviously, on the CrossFit clothing. So that's one bit you missed, a bit more money. And then the other bit is obviously buying the clothing themselves itself and giving it away. And you're assuming that the size of a global brand like CrossFit is going to get you enough awareness to make that a profitable marketing spend in the long term. But it's not a marketing spend that just turns into cash like that. And I'm sure you've heard stories from all partners over the years. You don't just turn money, you don't the CrossFit partnership into cash. But
you
for
do,
Northern Spirit,
hang on. You do if you don't actually pay the partnership money though.
Yeah,
you can earn a nice little bit of money if you just decide not to pay out any of the games money. Just don't give CrossFit the money and just take them to court instead.
That's quite common. That was quite a common theme as well. But for Northern Spirit, it works. Like, if you want, it's non-tangible at the moment, but no one knew who they were before the semi-finals, and now a large amount of the community knows who they were, and now it's about winning them over through the business plan going forward, the product quality, and working with the community, etc.
Well, where do they get the money from to do all that? Is that fundraising or whatever? The same, like, is this company just heading on the same trajectory of like, let's just raise some money and do this stuff? And then it's like, wait a minute, this feels kind of familiar.
I know. So the company is financed by an individual. So he's a director of the B Sport Group, and he finances the whole group. Just a very successful individual who's very much, well, again, like a lot of us, CrossFit completely changed his life, but his life, it really did change because he was really quite ill before he found a CrossFit gym. And it changed his life, and he's invested a lot of money in the sport of CrossFit and fitness, and he wants to be in the space. So they're financed by him rather than a private equity group, which, in my opinion, is at this stage really positive because, one, he needs to see profitable return quickly, and two, he is passionate, he is authentic, he does understand the customer. It's not just a spreadsheet.
Why is he like a fucking oil baron or something? Like, who has enough money to just like fund companies endlessly?
He's a successful individual.
Yeah. Okay. Just sounds dodgy. Just sounds dodgy when it's like there's an individual that's financially backing these companies.
So when we started WIT, I had 10 grand. I started it myself, and then we did it. We did get it to a fairly sizable company even before private equity, and bootstrapped by us and friends and family. So it is possible, and there's a lot of companies out there that do the same. Investing in a CrossFit partnership is unusual in the early stages, but if there's the cash there to do a partnership like that, and that's his strategic decision, it can work. if it's grown responsibly elsewhere as well.
And I guess the hope is for them then that like if affiliates want apparel for their affiliate, that they'll go to them because, oh, what about Northern Spirit? They did all the semi-final stuff. Let's go to them. Or like, oh, they gave us all that free shit when we were in Lyon or whatever. Let's go to them. And then if they have the license for CrossFit stuff, if someone wants a t-shirt with CrossFit written on it, they'll go there because otherwise you're buying a 2-year-old Noble t-shirt or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think the rights to the CrossFit apparel, like CrossFit is, it takes some hits. The brand takes some hits, especially recently, but it's a global brand and it's got, tens of thousands of people doing it, and people do buy CrossFit apparel. So having the CrossFit license is quite a considerable thing to have for Northern Spirit.
When you were coming back, were you like, okay, let's go back, we'll buy it, we'll start again, whatever? And like, I've seen you doing loads of High Rocks races. I've seen you doing like partner ones, like mixed sex ones in your own. I've seen you doing turf games. I've seen you doing like training in your CrossFit, like in that, whatever the fuck that outdoor affiliate. I don't know how that functions as a gym, like outdoor in the UK, like good luck. I've seen you doing like track running. I've seen you doing run clubs. I've seen Sam is doing loads of stuff. Like, kind of, what would you call it? Like transcending different sports is basically what both of you are doing. Is that like, do you feel like you were too in, like, is CrossFit too niche? Were you too into CrossFit and then didn't like diversify enough?
That's a really good point. I think the reason we were so successful was because we only focused on CrossFit, and that's also the reason Noble was successful. RX Bars, Rogue, there's billion-dollar companies that have grown up just CrossFit because it was a niche. So no, I don't think we were a victim of not looking wider. I actually think companies, i.e., one of the big ones I just mentioned, going too wide too early, they actually lose their authenticity. I think the WIT customer has evolved a bit, and there's a lot of people, sad people in their late 30s, early 40s like me that are just trying to stave off like aging, and they're doing multiple sports a week and not just CrossFit. We especially see that in London, and we just think that for WIT that's a good fit, like that evolution of the customer. So yeah, I think it's deliberate in what we're doing, working with all these sports and all these gyms, but it's also what we see happening here anyway. But CrossFit is still, my favorite methodology. It's still my sport. It's still the thing I love to do every single day in the outdoor gym. So we'll still have a focus there.
Before we started this, so what I asked you on initially, and then about an hour ago, you were like, you can ask me whatever you want. So strap in. So I heard some dodgy stuff about Northern Spirit, accusations that were kind of leveled at their partnerships, and I had heard from like multiple different sources that they sponsored athletes, and then it just kind of turned a bit sour, like that they stopped paying some athletes, like ignored requests for payment, that they like threatened to sue some athletes when those athletes were like, well, okay, I'm just going to go to this other brand then. And they were like, no, you can't, you're still on contract. And it's like, well, you're not paying me my contract. I heard that same story from like 2 or 3 separate groups and 3 or 4 different like athletes who had been involved at some point with the company. Like when you hear stuff like that, like, do you not get the jitters a bit? Are you not a bit like, oh, hang on, if this is a community-based company, and then if that's the history of the company?
Yeah. And obviously, I say, firstly, when I was approached to do the job, it was through people I kind of trust, which has helped. And secondly, I hadn't heard any of that, initially. Obviously, I've heard some rumors since, but all I can say is that I've learned a lot, especially working with private equity and et cetera. And I've been through a lot of shit with a lot of shit people in the last few years, and I don't like to judge people anymore. And these guys are only only got good intentions, and that's from the owner down. And when I say good intentions, they've only got the intention to, really kind of work with affiliates across all their companies, and get more people into CrossFit, get more people into fitness. With regards to those specific stories, I think there's two sides to everything. I haven't asked any searching questions internally about them because I don't think it's my place. It was before I was there. But I think there's two sides to those stories. And some people might have agendas. Some people might just be fucking listening to a guy next to them and then just saying it to someone else and saying they've heard it. But I hear most things in this sector probably clearer than some of the people gossiping. And from what I would say is that I've only got respect for everyone involved in all the spirits, and from what I've seen, it's they're just good people.
Is this somewhat of a rebrand then? Is this like a because it's been around a while, like, so is this like a relaunch kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a rebrand. So if you you'll notice if you go on, you probably won't have paid this much attention, but if you go on the social media, like a few weeks before the semi-finals, we launched a rebrand, and the clothing will have a slight rebrand. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's my kind of remit alongside executing the semi-finals. So yeah, just a refresh. And I think on one point is maybe if it's anything, I think maybe if anything has happened like that, it might be due to lack of maybe experience in the team, maybe a perceived lack of professionalism because of that experience or lack of experience. And I think someone like me who's been there and done it before, especially with athletes, hopefully will add a lot more professionalism to that kind of thing.
Speaking of athletes then, WIT obviously had like Sarah Sigma's daughter was there, she left, and then she's with LSKD now. And then you had like James Sprague, Jen Ware, Lucy McGonigal, trying to think who else. Ella Wilkinson, no?
Yeah, Ella Wilkinson. Yeah, Ella was there a long time.
Yeah. So you had these athletes were like there and on contracts. Yeah. And then the company goes on. What happens there? Like, because again, could be just people talking shit or whatever. But like at the time, I remember hearing like, oh yeah, those athletes haven't been paid, and they haven't been paid in a while, and there's no word of them getting paid. Like, what happens there?
I think everything you said there is true. I obviously wasn't in the business at all, so I had no visibility on who's getting paid, who's not getting paid. That's from athletes through to suppliers, through to anyone. And a lot of it was kind of a shock to us, when we found out that we were going to have to turn this kind of somehow into goodwill again. And all those athletes you named, I believe, were owed some money. And yeah, to be brutally honest about it, when a company's bought out of administration, all debts cease to exist. As does the equity in the business for shareholders. So there's no obligation to pay anyone legally. However, I have got a relationship with a lot of those people you mentioned, and I have done and will be reaching out to a lot of them to work out how we can work together moving forward. Now that I'm not, there's nothing I can really do about historics, but to build a positive relationship and to compensate them for what was, unpaid, etc.
Yeah, it's tricky.
It's tricky because it's like some of those athletes were signed by me years ago, and I've got close relationships with them. Like Lucy, I've got a very close relationship. I know her parents. Ella, obviously, I've known for years. So it's a difficult one for me because I've got to be like brutally honest with the scenario, and we haven't got endless funds to do that. But then I want to work with these people going forward.
Yeah,
so it's a difficult one.
And then a lot of them have contracts with like other companies, and you're not just going like you've got a choice of either saying like, "Hey, sorry about what happened, that was shitty," or being like, "Hey, here's a check for the money that you were owed by the former company before they went bust," and like, good luck with your new company. Do you know what I mean? It's a tricky one to balance. But then if someone's owed money, they're owed money.
It's really difficult. But I think with regards to like, there's unlikely that they can be paid that money. But it's even a personal thing because I know a lot of them. That I may be able to help them in other ways. in the industry. There may be other brands that are looking for athletes, or there may be revenue opportunities in other places that I would be happy to help them with on a personal level outside of the business. So I think the relationship is still important, whether it's with WIT or not.
Are you involved in Hustle Up or no? Just Northern Spirit?
Just Northern Spirit, yeah. So I'm doing a bit of work with it. They also own a company called Waterbox, the retailer in France. I'm doing a bit of work with them.
Another competitor.
Yeah, with just Northern Spirit is really the full time at the moment, and they're talking about athletes again. Like I said earlier, it's really a grassroots approach with them, like affiliate owners and coaches, but there is some potential, some athletes, and it could be that some of them that you named are on the list for them.
Which Sam are you talking about? Yeah, so Sam Kitch, who's like founder of WIT, went to Noble, not Sam Cornforth, who was a glorified towel boy at WIT, who became an internet phenomenon. Not that Sam.
Glorified towel, yeah, he's moved on a bit. Yeah, customer service extraordinaire.
When you have when you look back, so like you had, say, Fraser Knox, who's at Pliability, Sam, who's like a just ridiculous human. he's like famous in his own right now for his creativity, and like he's just fantastic. You had like Holly was there. Basically anyone who currently works for a UK based clothing or retail kind of company at some point seems to have been in WIT. A lot of coaches as well who are really well known were in WIT. Like, how do you earmark, or how do you like identify what kind of, because you're saying you're starting from scratch, like you've nothing, so it's just you and Sam. So at some point you're going to need, like, I don't know, a fucking receptionist, or you're going to need like a PA, or you're going to need someone working in a warehouse. How do you start identifying, like, are you calling up old contacts? Are you calling up old employees? Are you just starting totally from scratch, being like, all right, here's a call out. We've got like this position and this position, coming into you for them. Or how do you build a team from nothing?
Well, I think firstly, all those people you mentioned, like, that's actually one of the things we're both most proud of, because I think we were always good at hiring people and creating good culture. And I think that's what a lot of people resonated with, because those people that you mentioned there, especially those three, felt like friends to a lot of people, just whether it's watching them on Instagram or YouTube. So I think we're confident we can do the same, and we think the culture was behind the initial success. And actually, when PE came in, it was potentially lost a bit. And how do we hire now? So there is me and Sam, but there is Sam owns a portfolio company that invests in startups. So there is a group of people in that company that will be supporting us. And then to your third question, yes, I will be picking up the phone to people I know. But I guess that's the beauty of experience. Like you do meet good people in the industry.
So Friday And, is that the company that Sam has?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that? Because there's a lot of like bougie, like boutique, like, oh, this is so cool. Like Brookwell's clothing company took me about fucking 4 hours to realize it was a clothing company. Like there's a lot of like, hey, let's just start a run club and like we'll see what happens. And then, like a company will just sprout from it or whatever. Like, so that's basically a group of people who are in or around this kind of not necessarily CrossFit, but in or around this kind of circle, have a bit of money and are like, oh, I want to invest and like earn back. So let's pick different companies to be like, what do you call those things? Not fucking unicorn. What do you call them? Something investors.
Angel investors.
Oh, angel investors. Is it basically that?
Yeah. It's in fact, your summaries are different, but they're bang on. Yeah, I like it.
Different, stupid. My summaries are stupid. My summaries are for the layperson.
In fact, I think Sam should ask you to describe the Friday And. I think you should do the bio. I think you should do their LinkedIn bio, because I agree. I told him actually.
He should have asked me to fucking do it, 2 years ago, whenever he started. I was just looking at this like beige picture, like, what is this? It doesn't, and I was like, I am so excited to start this company. I was like, what company? What is it?
I mean, yeah, Life on Earth and Friday And. I think I think Friday And yeah, it become quite obvious what it is when, you know, they've only got a few investments at the moment. But yeah, you're bang on. They invest in like small businesses, and they've got a small team who can like fractionally support those businesses. It's a cool model, and so far so good. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they want to invest in a podcast and get zero ROI, you can point them in my direction. So those, you obviously have, like when I think of influential people in the space, God, I fucking hate that I said in the space, but when I think of influential people that are around, like I think of Tebow at GoWad, I think of O'Keefe. I think nobody kind of touches O'Keefe. I think O'Keefe is like in his own layer of,
Yeah,
like,
he's the godfather.
he's like very influential, I think. Like, you know, he's above. And you obviously, like with people like that, with Tebow, with him, with all those other people that have been around a long time, a lot of agents, a lot of managers and stuff that maybe think they're influential. But when you're around all those people, I'm assuming that they're also relationships that you've now you're like, oh, thank fuck I maintain those relationships because now I need them.
Yeah, I think so. I think what your first question about on the podcast today about how was I feeling after this last week and the reaction. I think we showed that we treated people well originally, me and Sam, and it's kind of come back to help us. And yeah, Matt O'Keefe is a really good friend of ours, and Tebow is a good friend of Sam. I don't know him that well. Sam's probably got closer relationships with a lot of them just because he loves that he loves the smoozing, he loves the networking. But we're very good friends with a lot of them, so yeah, hopefully that will come out. That will come in well. Come in good.
Yeah. Sam followed me there the other week actually on Instagram, and I was like, do you know what? Fuck you, Sam. I followed you like 3 years ago. It's too little, too late. I'm still going to mock your company. So the plan now then is you need to get some inventory. So you said six to whatever, I can't remember what you said, 6 to something months. Is that like time from now, or has that already started?
Yeah, that's really time from now. We will do stuff in the next 6 months, but it won't be around product. Maybe it'll be a run club. It won't be a run club. It won't fucking be a run club. I tell you that right now.
Honest to God, run clubs are. It's just so. Like,
I mean, there's room for more, surely.
Oh,
yeah.
It's like, all right, what's the cheapest fucking thing we can do? Like the cheapest. All it takes is one photograph. We'll write Run Club over the photograph. We'll put some of the letters filled in and some of them not filled in. We'll make it maybe black and white. Nobody's doing that. We'll do black and white and a little splash of color in one corner. We'll tell them we'll get a coffee, or we'll provide coffee. Fuck, how's nobody thought of that before? It's just so like, how do people sit down in a meeting? This is the thing that really fucking annoys me. That people sit down in a meeting and say, right, guys, ideas, and someone's just scrolling through Instagram and goes, we could do a run club. Raise. You're getting a raise for that idea. That's fantastic. Like, I've seen everybody doing a run club, so obviously it's a brilliant idea. Let's do what everybody is already doing. That's
I don't get it either. I don't get it. It does hurt me. It hurts me seeing that.
It's lazy. Okay, so after you start your run club, you get your product in. So are we looking at a website in say an actionable website by like Christmas then?
Yeah. Well, you'll see a website in the next 90 to 120 days, next 3 to 4 months. Okay. And there will hopefully be some product in that timeline, but a full range like we used to do will be sometime next year. So it's kind of a gently approach, but we're going to be in and around the fitness community doing some stuff over the next kind of 6 months. And we will be like employing, as you asked, like we will be employing some people to do that alongside us, because like we've both got full-time jobs as we've talked about. But yeah, we'll be visible very soon.
And one of the things that you did kind of tail end that I really liked was picking companies like small brands and highlighted them. So like stocking some fucking thumbtack company or some random apparel company or some small like sock company or whatever, from the UK or from Ireland or from Europe or whatever. Is that something that you might do again, do you think?
Yeah, so we will work with other brands again. So you're likely to see maybe some collaborations with some bigger brands, like one-off, like that'll be the limited stuff that you talked about earlier. And yes, there will be some work with some authentic British brands, especially, but also because again, I said to you, I'd be transparent on this call. Some of them are owed money, were owed money. So if there's a way that we can, again, give them a leg up through our network, it would definitely we'll do that.
Yeah. That's it. I think I've kind of thumped you enough with questions. I'm kind of happy enough with my lot there. Yeah, it's good luck with it. Like it's not it's an arduous enough task. Because I think, you mentioned that there's a lot of goodwill and a lot of, what would you call it, like gladness or whatever that you're back. But I think there's probably a lot of skepticism too. So I think it's good to clear out, just to answer. There's probably other questions that I haven't asked because I'm not that good at this, but there's probably people who would be skeptical of like, oh, okay, so the company went bankrupt and now it's back. So what's going to happen in 3 years' time, or like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
So I think it's a good idea to just kind of be honest about it and open about it. But yeah, best of luck. I'm excited to see where you go and what you do. These activations that aren't run clubs.
Activations are run clubs. Yeah, well, you should come when we do one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you for having me as usual. And we are excited. It's an exciting time. We know we need to build goodwill back up. We know some people will be skeptics potentially. Probably some people want us to fail, but like we there's good intentions there. We want to get back to where we were originally. So we're excited.
Yeah. Cheers, Dan. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Yeah.